What is up, guys? Welcome to a new video. So RYLAIS is getting a big changes patch, and I wanted to go over champions who will actually get even stronger, even though it looks like a big nerf. If you aren't sure, it's getting less base stats, and the 40% slow for single target and AoE is down to 20%, and that's actually going to feel bigger than you probably think it will be in game. So this is going to hit champions who use this just for raw base stats, right? Like Syndra or Orianna, for example, they don't really need to slow that much. It was more just all of the stats and making them a bit tankier. It was also going to hit champions who wanted the utilities, so people like Talia or Victor who wanted to kite people around while waiting for cooldowns. The thing is, it is 600 gold cheaper. It's better if you want the Liandry's passive synergy or if you're a low income champion or a low income role. And also the components are easier to buy. It's a blasting wand and not a rod. So if you go back, like, it's more of a chance that you're actually able to pick up some AP. You don't have to save that 1250. So we're actually going to go over a bunch of champions who enjoy this change, who actually, even though it's a nerf, are going to benefit from it and are actually going to be stronger. Singe is going to be the first one, probably one of the biggest ones. It's a big buff in my opinion. The poison trail is slow by 20% anyway as damage over time. That's no actual change now. The only thing is less stats, but that's probably a good thing for Singe. It sounds really weird, but this fits Singe perfectly now. He wants a slow to kite with more than anything else, right? And he still has that exactly the same as the way before, but means he can invest that 600 gold into other items now and get them faster. This is a point for all of these, by the way. If you just want to think about it, you could buy a ruby crystal and get 150 health. You're losing 100, by the way, so that's even more. Or an amp tome for 20 AP and be basically the same health or AP stat wise before the nerf and still have gold left over. As like a full completed item in one slot, sure, it is weaker stat wise, but actually if you have more item slots, so if you're building this early into the game, it's still going to be really good. So overall for Singe, it is a big buff. You get your other items much sooner into the game and the slow earlier as well. You're not really losing anything, you're just gaining things. Zyra is another one because she mainly wants the double damage from Liandry's, right? Plants only apply 20% slow anyway, like Singe, so you're not losing much there at all. Your Q did actually apply 40%, but normally, does that really matter? You're either rooted from your E, right, or the knocked up from your ultimate anyway when you hit with that Q, so it's not really like the slow is going to apply anything anyway. They can't move. The base stats were nice, but it just isn't really the biggest thing. It's 600 gold cheaper, which for a support is a massive deal. It's harder to get gold in the game. It means you can get everything sooner now as well. You're more likely to get into a team fight and actually have your RYLAIS completed. It isn't just RYLAIS being cheaper as well. Liandry's is 100 gold cheaper, but together 700 gold less for the combination, and that is the big thing here, especially for supports. Mid lane Zyra will actually probably be a bit better now as well because you get that 3 item spike sooner into the game, and I think the burn is really worth it still on the mid lane Zyra. For all of these in this video, at 6 items it is going to be weaker because of less stats, but before that, if you're actually using it properly, then you get every other item faster. Overall, it is a bigger buff for support Zyra than mid lane Zyra. It's actually a really big buff for support Zyra, I think. You want the burn more than anything. The plant slow is unaffected, or we might actually see mid Zyra back more now as well. Brand is another one that's very similar. The slow is actually going to affect him a little bit though, because everything or all of your spells was applying 40% before except his passive burn. Even though we're losing that and we're halving that, it's a lot like Zyra. The core item is cheaper for you now, both support and for mid lane. You mainly want that combo of RYLAIS and Liandry's anyway, so you're going to get that quicker. For support, that is really good obviously, but actually I think this is really good for mid lane Brand as well. You normally get Rod of Ages first, then RYLAIS, then Liandry's as your first 3 items into a game, so you're not going to miss the health that much because you already have some from Rod of Ages. You get the burn passive 700 gold cheaper combined with your passive and Deathfire Touch as well. It means you hit that 3 item combo much quicker into a game. You're much more deadly in a team fight sooner. Overall, support is going to do more damage in a mid-game team fight, I think, without getting fed in the lane phase, because normally if you get fed on Brand, you kind of take over, right? You get your items quicker, and that's basically what we're doing anyway without needing that extra gold. Mid lane, you're going to hit the 3 item spike earlier and also be better overall, I think, as well. So watch out for Brand this patch. Now Malzahar is one who is a little bit dead as a champion, I think, kind of, but he applies the slow mainly from the damage over time anyway, so that was already 20%. You're not really going to feel it that much at all. You mainly want the burn with Liandry's as well. Similar to Brand, your 3 item spike is earlier into the game now. Morello, RYLAIS, and Liandry's. The slow means a bit more actually because your voidlings will bash for longer. It's like easier, so you do want RYLAIS still anyway, but even just a 2 item spike is 600 gold sooner. You don't have the best AP ratios anyway, really. Malzahar is one of these champions who as soon as he gets certain items, he kicks it into another gear, and I think actually Morello and RYLAIS is one of those combinations, so just after 2 items. You're not in the best spot anyway, but the reduction in price will mean he's more annoying earlier into the game, and it might help him more than we actually think it probably will. Even though it's a nerf, I think he might actually get a bit better. Having the burn earlier into the game, outpacing other mids, like typically these 3 items will now cost less than a normal mage's 3 items, so you'll be getting 3 completed ones when they're just sitting on 2. Overall, the slow is the same anyway. You want the burn, you get get your item spike earlier into the game, so it actually might be a big buff. Now Vel'Koz is one that I'm not 100% sure about for mid lane, but for support it is great. Supports earn less gold, they want cheaper items, so get more completed items quicker, and it makes support Vel'Koz more deadly, as if that needed to happen. The burn is nice for the poke, but the slow is going to suck a little bit though, and that's where I'm not so sure for mid lane. Typically you bought like RYLAIS for stats and kite, not the burn on mid lane Vel'Koz, so normally you would stack AP because you have more gold, you can afford the more expensive items. It does give him a bit more safety, like as an immobile mage, some health, slow and stuff, but it might make mid Vel'Koz a bit weaker while support Vel'Koz gets stronger. Overall in a support it's definitely a good buff, you get it quicker, it's cheaper. Mid lane I'm not sure, but I'm leaning towards maybe a nerf. It wasn't bought for Liandry's synergy, so you're probably going to skip it now for something else, maybe a Zhonya's. Cassiopeia is a weird one that I'm on the fence a little bit about, like I'm not sure how this will affect her perfectly. I think the 40% down to 20% hurts her more than anything though. Your poison sure would apply 20% anyway, but your E was 40%. It made it impossible to escape her. The good side though is you don't have boots to buy, right? So you have 6 slots to fill, and it doesn't matter if one slot has slightly less stats. It also means you get your Morello and the RYLAIS and Archangels faster into the game, and it's weird because you buy this for the stats and the slow. What we said earlier is if you're buying it for those things, it's probably going to be a nerf. They both got nerfed anyway, but I think one, you're still actually going to need RYLAIS and the slow to kite people, and two, it's still good anyway because of the cost reduction and wanting more items. Overall, you're going to have to see how this is in practice. It's worse for her stat wise, but it's cheaper, so I think it's actually not going to matter that much. She still wants a slow, and I think it might actually be a buff, even though it doesn't look like it should be. For Rumble, you want the Liandry synergy more than anything here. The one thing I'm not sure about though is some people actually skip RYLAIS. It's common to build it, but not always used. The slow will suck a little bit though, base stats as well, but if you're getting both, then it will help damage wise, especially with your ultimate and a flame spitter. So I think the way you're going to look at this is it's not as good in the lane phase at all, but actually in a team fight when you're laying your ultimate across everybody on the enemy team, it's actually going to be a really good thing to have this earlier into the game. I'm not 100% sure. You'll spike sooner with 3 items. You'll get a Zhonya's, for example, as well sooner into the game than you would normally, but those two were the big items for most Rumble players. We might see like Protobelt come back, Zhonya's more as well, but I think getting them earlier makes him way more useful in a teamfight situation. So if you're roaming down and using him like that, then it will be a buff. I've kind of grouped the junglers together. There are 3 of them that I want to talk about. So in the jungle, you have less farm and less income, and it's not regular either. Like you're semi-reliant on good ganks and getting kills for some of your gold. With RYLAIS being cheaper though, it means you can grab other items sooner into the game. It's very similar to how a support works, if you want to think of it like that. Obviously, support is at like the bottom of the gold generation, but junglers are probably only just above. It's not as much in the lane, so actually being cheaper is probably a good thing. Especially late game, your gold intake normally slows down a lot the less you farm. So getting this early means in team fights you stand more chance of having more completed items. Elise is one that you kind of bought this for the slow and base stats, but it actually means you can hit that 3 item spike quicker, as we just said, and Elise's base stats are super high. You don't actually have the best AP ratios, you don't really need to use them that much, so it's not the end of the world losing a bit of AP from RYLAIS. The slow meant you could kite fights a lot easier while waiting on cooldowns and stuff, so that is going to suck, but you're still going to be able to do really good damage early into the game. I think you're actually going to snowball harder in my opinion, and this is why it's a buff. You finish RYLAIS sooner, which means a spike when she actually does. You're more deadly at that point, and in theory more deadly earlier into the game when you finish it earlier. Overall, you're kind of low income, so it's a good thing that it's cheaper. The slow change is going to be more the thing that sucks, but in game I think cheaper, still good damage means it's a buff. With Amumu, if you go the AP build, then this is still going to work well. Building other tank items anyway, so it's not as big of a deal, especially with Courage of the Colossus Keystone Shield. As you dive in, it doesn't really matter, you have 100 less health. The slow isn't quite as good, but you will pick up items faster into the game, and everything you buy on Amumu is really for the passive rather than the stats, to be honest, and that's why it's a buff for him. RYLAIS with Liandry's together, the burn or the health and AP, like the Abyssal, magic resist, more damage to everyone around you though, which synergizes with your kit and your passive. You want to complete them all as soon as possible because you actually get a big spike with the passive once you have completed those items, not with the components. Obviously a tank build is still going to work with the Amumu as well, so worst case you can revert back to that, he's still going to be strong, but overall the cheaper aspect is the big thing. It means you grab the passives from the other items easier and they all synergize really well together, so in theory actually even though the base stats are less on Liandry's, you're getting more of these passives earlier into the game, which means he's stronger. The last one is going to be Evelynn. So the shield from your ulti will mean you don't really feel the health drop as much as some other champions, kind of like the Courage of the Colossus idea. Losing the slow is going to be annoying, but you're quite fast anyway, plus actually you burst like a mofo. Like you don't really have a chance to even try and kite Evelynn. The burst aspect is actually really underrated I think, because the slow doesn't matter as much. The AP health doesn't either if they die really fast. They don't get to return any damage anyway. What it's likely going to mean is if you get ahead, you're going to snowball even harder than you would before. So you're actually going to be stronger if you get ahead early. If you get behind, you're still going to pick this up earlier, so it might be a good thing, but diving in is going to be a little bit worse because of the less health. It also means you can start working towards your Lich Bane even faster if you get that fourth, and it still gives you a bit more defense than just building full glass cannon. So overall, like, yes, it is a nerf, but it's cheaper so you can get more damage sooner. It means you don't have to get super fed either. Lower gold total needed to hit 3 items is basically the idea behind that as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you think I missed any in the comments who actually got a buff from this change. Thanks for watching though, and for now, let's go to the robots.